This video is Apollo Part 1, and there's a lot of words that prove my point, that he's the Antichrist. Remember Apollyon in the Bible? But first, let's focus on fencing. Fencing. Foe and seen. Fee and seen. Apollo, the lifestyle of fencing, the core of Western culture, and the sophisticated, worldly, down-to-earth kind of upper classes. Apollo's name also comes from Apella, which means wall or fence for animals. Those who don't insist on the civilizing force, the marshaling force of the sun that really civilized humanity, can be seen as animals. In fact, in Greek, the word animos means spirit. Therefore, science, technology, the rules of the West, the law of the land, okay, are part of the fence. All cultures that are allowed and the ones that are understood, right, are part of the fence. Cultural barriers, okay? Your fear is part of the fence. Being jealous of the hero. Hera is part of the fence. Her alpha, her husband, Zeus, right? This kind of chubby guy who, is a rape cult deity who helps reinforce the rules of a rape cult planet. Okay. Females thinking they can do better, right? Materialism is part of the fence. Anything that comes ultimately, especially if it comes ultimately from the Apollo idea, okay, that helps create barriers that keeps you from obeying God through the top martial artists, when you consider universal morality, is part of the fence. So let's think about fencing. Who does it? At their wedding, Meghan Markle and Harry, they said no swords allowed because these guys like to wear swords. He wore some kind of a military outfit, if I remember correctly. There's a lot of guys there. We see the police with their gloves. They kind of look similar to the Marines, and they have the sword. And they hold the sword high in their commercial. They take on a certain form. I believe the fencing champion of the world is a female fencing champion, a 6-time Olympic winner, or something like this. Okay. We associate it with nobility and the accompanying, European nobility, and the accompanying greed, cunning, and indifference, their ability to be evil. We see it in Saudi Arabia and other countries. They have their cultural kind of curved blades and expensive sword-like weapons and swords. The Three Musketeers, Zorro, the Princess Bride. So it is associated with nobility, taking on evil quite often, right? We see it with Adam's family, okay? And it is associated with royalty, right? They have the sword, this sort of knight's broadsword in popular culture, and they also have fencing swords. Okay, these are the noble classes. These guys have been taught to fence by the best. It's for the privileged people. There's also the occult school of the sword. We have the mage with the 2 sticks working the angles. These guys they don't skywalk. They don't walk with this sort of leopard grace. A giant walking with leopard grace. What's the difference between someone who's tall with defined muscles that help define their body structure, walking with a leopard grace of the jungle, and somebody who's smaller? Okay. If you can walk silently and you're 6'4", 6'5", there's something to be said about that. So look at what Apollo on record is the deity of. Oracles, authorizing colonialism, light, archery, children. Olympic-style sports, the young face, beardless face of the youth, this kind of effeminate look. We see it with Zuckerberg. We see it with a lot of people. Harry Potter, certain look in their eyes that they're trying to induce by chemically castrating me with drugs. A lot of these guys are the offspring of betas. They don't have a high testosterone level. Of the white people, they have the lower testosterone level, and blacks on average have a higher testosterone level. So they have more of a effeminate look and chemistry as a result. And other hormones, other chemicals associated with masculinity and so on and so forth. Okay, poetry, science, dancing. Okay, dancing, right? Western dancing versus the martial art. Western dancing has nothing to do with war arts, generally speaking. Okay, African dancing is kind of mock battles, has a lot to do with war arts, martial arts. Okay, plagues, medicine. He has the arrow archer. Basically, these guys who are his followers would rain down arrows on people who don't want to let them have sex with them or don't want to buy their goods, etc. They would harass people and force them to obey, and that's also part of colonialism. He helped the Greeks and the Romans understand how to colonize people by giving them plagues and having cures and saying, hey, if you do it our way, give us your daughters, convince those of you who went into hiding to come out, help us entrap everybody. He's also a deity of entrapment. Okay, you can't make this shit up. He's also a son of Set the stage, set you up, right? Because chaos and anarchy and the Orphic mysteries, and one of his children are said to be Orpheus, who's basically describing his ancestors' history. So you have healing, right? Sexual healing is part of healing. Right? Music, nurturing, female nurturing you, nurses. Knowledge, okay? He's a deity of knowledge, the tree of knowledge, right? Science, okay? You can't make this up. Herds, flocks, and political lives. He is the bad shepherd who insists that the sheep lives an immoral life. He has many kids. Therefore, I would describe him as also a fertility deity. He's a big-time sex cult deity. In the 1st century AD, there was a conflation, right? He was basically combined with Helios and the sun deity Sol. Both those are sun deities. That goes back to Heliopolis, Ra's cult center. Remember, he's also associated with Horus. He's said to be a deity of redemption. We'll get to that in a moment. Yeah, I'll be right there. He's also a deity of redemption. Okay, I'm going to have to shoot through the names here and then get into the rest in part 2. So etymology, Apollyon, the Bible destroyer, right? Science, knowledge, sex, eugenics, technology, right? There's various ways he applies what he's a deity of to destroy people, right? Their applications. His name, Apollo, right? Appalled, application, apple, Apollo, Apollo, fence, wall for animals, assembly within the limits of the square is also what this word means. Okay, the square and compass, masonry, London Square, on and on and on. Apollon, Apellios, okay, pharma, pharmaceuticals are associated with them. Apellai, Apella, offerings at the initiation of young men at the family festival, Apellai. Instead of teaching young men how to be martial art warriors in the African, very serious style, he's teaching them baby-faced ways like the Spartans, pederastry. They would go out and they would woo the young man. They would have sex with them, and they would give them chocolates and flowers. You can't make this shit up. Okay, and this carried on to Valentine's Day, Lupercalia. Okay. Instead of teaching them to be hardened jungle warriors or something, right? Teaching them to use the bow and to be a sissy. Apella, the popular assembly at Sparta. Spar, T, the feminine suffix A, right? The female, the effeminate, the gender neutral, the profane A. Okay, the fixation on Mother Earth, Key, Gaia. Okay, Apollon, Apollome, to destroy. Apollos, Apollo, Y-S-I-S. Redemption. Right? They pretend like they take the female, and if she rolls with it, the colonial beast, magically you're redeemed. It's stupid. Apollosos, Apollo, usis, purification. Like her pussy can redeem you. By her being assimilated, it's like, oh, they've redeemed themselves for whatever wrong by teaching them science and technology. The old, we civilize you, and he also authorizes colonialism. Apollon, simple. Okay? Abalon, ever shooting. Okay? Think about Ki, the earth deity, and Gunny is associated with Ki, okay? Shooting arrows, right, forever, and shooting guns, right, very much associated with colonialism. Sekos, right, sick-os, or seek-os, seek A's, to bring people into the fold, to seek alphas like me, and to screen them out scientifically and with knowledge and with your secret society network. Pella, to stone, right, to turn people to stone. We have the non-Greek, Apollonius, Hittite form, the Hurrian Apollo, god of the plague, Akkadian Apollo Enlil, son of Enlil, that links to Nergal, which has the word gal in it. We'll go more of that into part 2. He's linked to, apply, uplay, I, L-O, L-I, L-pay, from the word apply, Apollo, Aplu, okay, apply. Shamish, shame A's, right? By stealing their women's and pretending like you're the A's, mock them, mimicking, so on and so forth. Babylonian god of the sun is Shemesh, okay? This goes back to some of these Mesopotamian deities had female sun deities, and this confuses you a little bit, but it's basically a gender-neutral society where, they teamed up with the women that they kidnapped and that were stupid enough to be assimilated from other cultures to then make a gender-neutral culture, make them feel like goddesses and make them feel welcome, basically. He's also, I'm going to end with this, listen very carefully. He's an apotropaic deity. He must be appeased for you to remove a curse. He's a deity of wards, right? To ward evil, you must appease Apollo. How? With women, with money, with homage, helping him build his temple. You get it, right? It is sick what they're doing. A bunch of Greek fraternities going around harassing people with technology, a bunch of social clubs, a bunch of scum everywhere. Millions of people in America harassing people saying appease the gods by being their sex slave. A bunch of dominatrix weirdos, pedophile, cretin pederastry dogs. Thank you.